In 1986, a lake killed more than 1,700 people. No fire, no lava, no monster in the water. Just a calm lake, and something invisible underneath it. And the strangest part? Most people never saw the danger coming. This is Lake Nyos, a crater lake in Cameroon. From the surface, it looked peaceful. Blue water, green hills, a quiet village landscape. But deep under that water, the lake was storing something that could turn the air itself into a trap. To understand what happened, we need to go back to one night in August. On August 21st, 1986, people living near Lake Nyos heard something strange. Some described a sound like distant thunder. Then, a cloud moved out from the lake. Not smoke from a fire, not volcanic ash. A heavy cloud of carbon dioxide. It slipped down the hills and into the valleys, because carbon dioxide is heavier than normal air, and as it moved, it pushed breathable oxygen away. People and animals nearby didn't need to be burned. They didn't need to be crushed. They were surrounded by air that no longer had enough oxygen to keep them alive. Here's what makes this even creepier. If you were standing far enough away, the lake might still look normal. The water was calm again. The hills were still there, but the air around it had changed. That's why this disaster felt so impossible at first. When survivors and investigators tried to understand what happened, the scene didn't fit a normal disaster. There was no lava flow, no huge fire, no destroyed village from an explosion. But people and livestock were dead across the surrounding area. The killer wasn't something you could easily see. It was gas, and the lake had been collecting it quietly for years. Think of a soda bottle. When it's sealed, carbon dioxide stays dissolved inside the liquid. But if pressure changes, or the bottle is shaken, the gas can rush out all at once. Lake Nyos was like a gigantic natural soda bottle. Deep below the surface, volcanic carbon dioxide was entering the lake from underground. The pressure at the bottom helped keep that gas dissolved in the deep water. Layer after layer, the lake held it down, until something disturbed the balance. Scientists still discuss the exact trigger, but the result was clear. Deep, gas-rich water rose upward. Pressure dropped. Bubbles formed. And the lake suddenly released a massive cloud of CO2. And this wasn't just a big burp from a lake. It was more like opening a giant invisible trap. Because once the gas left the water, it didn't simply float away into the sky. It stayed low. It followed the land. It moved into the valleys where people lived. Carbon dioxide is not always poisonous in the dramatic way people imagine. You breathe out CO2 every day. But in high concentrations, it becomes deadly because it replaces the air you need to breathe. The body needs oxygen. If a heavy CO2 cloud settles around you, you may not realize what's happening fast enough. There's no wall, no flame, no monster, just air that stops working. That is what made Lake Nyos so terrifying. The danger looked like nothing. Lake Nyos was not completely alone. 2 years earlier, in 1984, Lake Manoun, also in Cameroon, had a smaller but similar gas disaster. That was one of the clues scientists used to understand what had happened at Nyos. These are rare events, but they can happen in deep volcanic lakes where carbon dioxide builds up and the water stays layered instead of mixing regularly. So the question became, if a lake can store gas like a loaded weapon, how do you unload it safely? The answer was surprisingly simple looking. Pipes. Engineers installed degassing pipes that reach deep into the lake. The system brings gas-rich water upward, where the carbon dioxide can escape in controlled amounts instead of building toward another disaster. It's like giving the lake a safe way to breathe. Not dramatic, not flashy, but maybe the difference between a quiet lake and another catastrophe. That's the weirdest part about Lake Nyos. It wasn't dangerous because it looked violent. It was dangerous because it looked peaceful. If you want more stories about normal-looking things hiding strange science, follow for more. Because sometimes the weirdest dangers are the ones that look completely harmless.